Clark Kent, Superman, is flying over the city while various people shout his name. He then goes to his parents' farm and sees himself running through the cornfield. It doesn't take long to realize that this is just a dream. Everyone is there, including Lois Lane and Jimmy. Lois says that Clark will never be a human. He will always be an alien. Suddenly, a certain man appears saying that Kal-El is not the only one, and it all ends with some kind of ship or meteor falling.
You're not their son, and you'll never be human.
Clark wakes up startled in his apartment, right after Lois Lane wakes up startled at the Daily Planet where she works. The first thing she sees is a love note from Clark, and she quickly replies to him on her phone. Then she tries to call her father, but he is missing and never answers her calls. It's time for the morning meeting. We see Jimmy arriving at work, handing out various cards to everyone because it's Valentine's Day. He is spending his entire budget as the head of the Daily Planet's Flamebird division. The young man asks what Clark is going to give Lois for Valentine's Day. Clark plans to buy yakisoba and take her to watch the sunset on the rooftop, but everyone says that's a ridiculous gift. He needs to do something truly romantic. Suddenly, Perry, the boss, arrives saying that Valentine's Day is canceled. There is another journalist who has been scooping all their best stories for months, and he's tired of it. He needs new ideas. Luckily, Lois Lane shows up out of nowhere. She says that a friend from college, who is a leader in space research at Star Labs, mentioned they have been monitoring an unusual meteoroid for the last 12 hours, and it could crash on Earth any minute. Perry immediately assigns Lois Lane and Clark Kent to investigate. Jimmy wants to go with them, but Perry tells him he has to make videos for the Flamebird division, and the young man insists, saying he can go with Lois and Clark and still manage to post something. They all head to Star Labs. We see the former assistant of Professor Evo trying to get a job, but no one listens to him, because he helped create things that could destroy Metropolis. The young man is very sad, and Jimmy talks to him, saying that if he thinks he has good ideas, he shouldn't wait for someone to give him a chance. He needs to go after it and make his own path. The young man realizes Jimmy is right. Just then, Lois Lane calls Jimmy, and they can no longer talk.
You've got great ideas, but nobody wants to take a chance on them, right? Don't wait for someone to give you a chance. Make one.
They go to meet Lois's friend, who is in a hurry because he has to travel to Paris with his wife for Valentine's Day. Clark is in shock. He then talks about the meteoroid to his friends and says the most impressive thing is that it disappeared. But before it completely vanished, they took a photo of it over Antarctica, and Clark instantly recognized it as his ship. The young man says they need to leave to write a story about Superman, and everyone goes along with this lie and leaves with him. Outside, Clark explains that it isn't a meteoroid but his spaceship, and he knows it because he had a vision of it this morning. Now he has to find it and not let it open another portal. Besides, in that same vision, he saw a man and thinks it is his father. So they all have to go to Antarctica together to investigate. Jimmy rents a jet to take them there, but when they arrive, Clark says it looks like his vision but still isn't the right place. Suddenly, that man appears in front of Clark, and he flies off following him. Clark ends up in a strange place and wants to know from the man what is happening. Jimmy and Lois go looking for Clark and find his spaceship. Without thinking twice, they investigate and find a hole on the outside. Clark couldn't have done that, so they go inside to look for him. Jimmy feels sorry for Clark because he was already stressed just because it was Valentine's Day. And Lois is shocked as she didn't even realize it was Valentine's Day.
It's Valentine's Day?
You forgot?
Suddenly, the corridor closes behind them and machines start chasing them. Clark is there talking to the man, asking why he wants to invade Earth and why he saved Clark after he stopped him from doing so. The man explains that when he was alive, his name was Jor-El, Clark's father. This version of him, however, is just a part of a computer program containing Jor-El's true mind. This is what he wanted to explain to Clark the first time he found the ship, but Clark buried it for 10 years and refused to speak to him. The kryptonite is still corroding the ship and they don't have much time. Jor-El then begins to show images to Clark. The Kryptonian Empire spread throughout the galaxy until they encountered an enemy they couldn't defeat. The Empire was being destroyed by a war it started, and as it became clear that no one would survive, Jor-El decided to send his son Clark away. However, it was never his intention to leave his son alone. The ship Clark saw trying to invade Earth was actually just a ghost ship with no one inside, on autopilot. They all lost their lives. Kal-El is the last one along with his cousin. Her name is Kara, and she was placed in a ship by Jor-El's brother, a man named Zor-El. Clark is happy to learn he is not alone in the universe. Suddenly, Jor-El says again that they are running out of time. The Brainiac system of the ship is trying to keep the kryptonite isolated in a certain area by moving the ship through dimensional space, but it won't hold for long. Besides, Brainiac is using too much energy to expel the intruders. Clark, however, says they are not intruders. They came with him. But besides Lois and Jimmy, there are others on the ship. We then discover that Lois and Jimmy managed to hide. Amanda Waller herself and her staff are there, trying to acquire as much technology as possible. Luckily, Jimmy and Lois managed to hide, but suddenly everything started to fall apart. They were almost caught by something that fell from the ceiling, but were discovered because of it. Clark and his father hurry to try to help them. Soon Superman appears, and one of Amanda's employees thanks him because without the lethal objects from his people, they wouldn't have been able to create enough technology to confront him.
Stay away from my friends.
Superman, thank you.
The man becomes gigantic and muscular and charges at Superman. He manages to hit the Man of Steel until they fall through the floor into a room where the kryptonite is isolated by Brainiac. Superman is immediately affected, and the man attacking him is also affected. Amanda arrives with another employee and sees that the green stone can incapacitate Superman. She then orders her employee to get the stone, but Clark manages to stop him. The stone falls elsewhere, and Jimmy goes after it. He uses a certain mechanism to isolate it, and Clark is no longer affected. His father then appears to help him in the battle. He uses the last of his energy to teleport everyone to another place. Everyone can go home, and Jor-El comes to say goodbye to Clark. The kryptonite has already destroyed everything it could, and they don't have much time left. Even so, Superman insists on asking where his cousin Kara is. However, Jor-El doesn't know. The ship's communication system was damaged. Fortunately, there is another one that was sent through a dimensional portal to Earth 22 years ago. Superman needs to find it to find Kara. Jor-El then says he is proud of his son. Clark has used his powers to defend the weak and filled his life with love. He is more than Jor-El could have hoped for. The two embrace, and Jor-El says he hopes that one day Clark can forgive him for abandoning him once again. He then disappears. Clark then tries to take Lois on the romantic date he wanted, and takes the opportunity to say that he has something to tell her that Jor-El showed him. Lois, however, also has a question, and Clark lets her speak first. She asks him to help her find her father. She is sure that Amanda Waller has imprisoned him, and she needs Superman's help. Clark then says he would do anything for her, and that what he wanted to tell her can wait because her issue is more important.
Hold on.
As Amanda leaves with her employees, we see that one of them managed to coat his sword with kryptonite. After that, we see something in a place catching fire along with a spaceship. Later, we see Amanda Waller waking up and making breakfast. She then takes an elevator. The woman lives where she works and goes directly to visit Lois Lane's father. She made breakfast for him, hoping that the man will tell her everything she wants to know. Meanwhile, Clark and Lois are in the city. She knows Amanda took her father but doesn't know where to start looking. Luckily, a young man on the street approaches them. He wants them to call Superman because his father disappeared. The man is a volunteer at the Strikers Island prison library and said something strange was happening there, but he never came home, and Superman needs to help them. Clark says he will talk to him, and the young man is very happy. Lois says that missing people are the Task Force X's specialty, and they need to go to Stryker's prison. They inform Jimmy, who wants to go with them, but Perry doesn't allow it. He has to work with his team on the Flamebird operation, a team of several interns who can't even communicate properly. Superman and Lois then infiltrate the place alone. Inside, they see that something is wrong because there are no prisoners in the cells. They notice that one of the walls has been recently painted, and using his X-ray vision, Superman sees that there is an elevator behind it. He breaks the wall, and they go down the elevator shaft.
No, I would never. Oh no, I slipped!
They quickly reach the secret facilities where Amanda Waller is and see one of her employees inside. This is Task Force X. There is something in the walls that blocks Superman's X-ray vision so he can't find Lois's father. She tries to disguise herself to get information, but it doesn't work, and Superman has to knock out the two people who were about to eliminate her. Through the security cameras, Clark sees that the communicator Jor-El mentioned is in those facilities. Superman then tells Lois everything and says that with that communicator, he can find his cousin Kara. However, she says that bringing more Kryptonians to Earth is a terrible idea. She finds Amanda Waller talking to her father through the cameras and wants to rush to save him. We see that Amanda wanted the man to tell her where he hid Kryptonian technology, but he refuses to speak. She then starts threatening him, saying that if he doesn't talk, she'll do something to his daughter. Amanda then leaves, and Louis appears shortly after to rescue her father. However, the man is not pleased at all. Meanwhile, Jimmy is with his interns and has an idea to rent a boat and take them all to Stryker's Island to help Clark.
Because you shouldn't be here! How could you put yourself in danger like this?
Superman tells him that's not what it looks like. While they were arguing, Louis separates them a bit and tells them they still need to find Billy's father and the communicator. But then Lois tells the truth. She doesn't want Clark to find the communicator because it would be too dangerous. Suddenly they realize Lois's father has disappeared. He managed to separate Amanda from her employees to talk, but one of them managed to break the wall. Amanda then ordered him to eliminate Lois's father, and luckily he ran towards Lois and Superman, managing to be saved by the Man of Steel. They arrive at a certain location and discover that Amanda Waller is using prisoners for experiments, which is terrible. Louis's father is among them, and he was the one who revealed everything. Amanda is turning civilians into lethal weapons, and Superman frees everyone. Lois's father can't believe what Amanda is doing. She then appears herself and orders one of her agents to eliminate Superman. The two start a fight, giving Louis and her father time to lead everyone out of the island. During their fight against the man, Superman sees the communicator, but he doesn't have time to grab it. The man starts hitting him, and they end up against a structure. They begin to struggle, but the man's powers cut through the structure above, and he ends up trapped in the rubble. Clark then manages to grab the communicator and get out of there. Louis and her father have already led everyone out, but they are at the edge of the ocean with nowhere else to run. Amanda is there to corner them and says that everything she's doing is to save humanity from alien threats. She is ready to eliminate Lois's father and everyone there until Jimmy appears with the boat. Shortly after, Superman arrives, destroying all the lethal objects. Thanks to this, everyone manages to escape, and with his breath, Superman knocks everyone down. Amanda can't do anything more because helicopters with several journalists are already above them on the boat. Clark wanted to tell Lois that he got the communicator, but she didn't pay attention to him because she wanted to talk to her father. The man tells her that all this happened because of him, and to avoid putting his daughter at risk, he will disappear for a while. But Louis doesn't want him to do that, and says it would be better if he lived with Clark and Jimmy. Surprisingly, the man found this a good idea. After that, we see Amanda Waller talking to the president, who is not pleased with what she did because the press is now all over them. Suddenly, Professor Evo appears in his super armor to destroy her, but he is stopped by that young man. The young man reveals that he built that parasitic armor and was Dr. Evo's assistant. He found that place by scanning the technology, and he only went there because someone told him the other day that to have the future he wants, he needs to pave his own path. His plan is to help Amanda protect planet Earth. He then introduces himself as Lex Luthor, her new chief scientist.